ready to go, ready to get to sleep pretty much.
Oh my god, in a second, I think.
Didn't take long.
Just took a shower. Don't tell me. But it was a tiring stage, right? Like it was great. It was that kind of tiring that we like it.
That's right. That's right. Good exhaustion after a lovely day. Then you get to do it all again.
Oh, absolutely.
Good morning, everyone. Great to see you all here on this beautiful Sunday, and to the fathers out there, happy Father's Day. And to start off with some reminders, in less than a week, on June 27th, we're having our Festa Junina, our
Folk festival?
folk festival. Yeah, I guess that
Closest one?
yeah, with lots of good food and good music and some good conversations. So it's not going to be here. It's on a Saturday, and it's at the St. Andrews Heights Community Association. It's by the university, and it's where we had our
AGM.
AGM. That's where we had our AGM. So yeah, I hope you can come, and if you could RSVP, just so we can get a better head count, that would help. Thank you.
Probably.
Pode falar que ele tá aí já.
Ah, tá aí.
Só minimiza isso aí, né? Daí tem um outro já debaixo desse.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, so every year there are a couple friends of us from the Spiritist Federation of the state of Mato Grosso in Brazil that come to Canada, and they do a series of talks and seminars on the weekend. And on August 29th and 30th, we're going to have it here in Canmore. So this would be a different location from Calgary, and just so we're out in the mountains, and it'll be at the Nordic Center in Canmore on the 28th and 29th. And it's a seminar style, which is the entire day, both days, with some, I don't know what the topic is, it's for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. It's a passage from Matthew. So that's where Lidio will be our facilitator, brings a passage from Jesus and talks about it deeply for 2 days. And it's a great event for us to really, it's a very internal or reflective 2 days that if you're able to attend, let us know. There's a registration required just because it's out in Canmore, so we need to have a head count. And if you have any questions, let us know. It's still 2 months away.
Victor, sorry, just one
Yes.
more question. Is that in Portuguese or is it going to be?
It is in Portuguese. Yes, good question.
But most likely, they always have translation as well. Yeah, they translate it to English.
And who is organizing is the Seeds of Light, which is the Spiritist Center in Edmonton. But we kind of get together, all the two centers, and go together to the seminar. So it's in Canmore this time, yeah.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing it out in the mountains for a few years, and this year it's finally happened. So, yeah, a couple of announcements today. Which will lead us to our talking about family, father, and gratitude. There's quite a few topics that you can gather from those 3 words, so we'll try to bring them all together in one 50-minute session. And to start off, I'd like to read a text from a book called Words of Eternal Life, Palavras de Vida Eterna, through the Spirit Emmanuel, through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. This is the 5th book in a collection called Living Spring. And so the text is called Test, and it's from a passage in Mark 19. when we have, I'll talk about this passage a little bit later, but it basically says that Jesus did not permit him to follow him, but ordered him to go home to your people, tell them everything the Lord has done for you and how he has had compassion on you. So again, this is Mark 5:19. And the explanation that Emmanuel gives to us about this passage is as follows. Christ's exhortation to the man possessed, restored to his own balance, gives us much to reflect upon. Jesus, at first, does not allow him to accompany him in the apostolate of the good news, publicly proclaiming the joy that now filled him. Instead of premature rejoicing, he recommends his return to his home environment so that he may reveal to his family the benefits he had received as a deposit of divine providence. Undoubtedly, with such a lesson, the Lord leads us to recognize that it is within the most intimate circle, whether in the home or in professional life, that we are called to demonstrate the solidity of the virtues we have acquired. This is because proclaiming higher principles through practical application in the renewal and self-improvement they require before those who know our shortcomings and failures is the true way of testing our capacity to express them successfully on a broader and higher level. The guidance leaves no doubt. If we have already approached Christ, assimilating his messages of eternal life, let us seek to communicate them through the language of example. First of all, to our own, to those who share our habits, difficulties, and joys. If approved in the domestic school, where we're most strictly observed regarding the real application of the ennobling teachings we accept and proclaim, then we will surely be fully qualified to bear witness for the Lord before humanity, our greater family. So let us join our hearts in a quick prayer, and then we'll get started. So let us, in this moment, take a deep breath, elevate our thoughts, our feelings to our guardian angels, so in this hour we can all be inspired by them, to open our hearts, to reflect about family, fathers, and our gratitude. We ask you, Master, that through the words that you have shared with us, we're able to find some of the missing pieces for our peace, for our harmony, for our love. And in doing so, may we, through the words of Emmanuel, be able to bring your blessings back to our home, back to those who coexist with us, so we can share your love, your guidance, and your peace to those whom we love so dearly. Thank you again for the opportunity to be here in communion with you and with all of us together. And may your love continue to shine through our lives. So be it. Matching shirts. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Cindy, I'll just- there we go. I don't want everyone to fall asleep. Maybe just a few of you. So today we're here to talk about parents, family, and our feelings towards them, or us if we happen to be fathers. Initial reflection, some of the things that we'll talk about here today. The importance of family for ourselves, the importance of family for humanity as a whole. The next one is, do I feel grateful for my family? As we'll see in this book here by Joanne de Angelis, she wrote an entire book called Psychology of Gratitude. 200 pages to talk about this one virtue, this one feeling. So that comes to show us the importance of it. And then the last one, giving this is Father's Day. What is my relationship with my father? How is that relationship? And if I happen to be a father, how is my relationship with being a father? How is that going so far? Lots of ground to cover, but we're going to take it slow. Before that, I wanted to talk about this passage from Jesus that we read in the initial text, which is, like I said before, it's in Mark chapter 5, when this is that passage that some of you might remember. It's when there is a person, a father, who is suffering from a spiritual obsession, and then he comes to Jesus, and Jesus, through his moral high ground, he's able to make that spiritual obsession, go away or cease. And the man is amazed by the power that Jesus has and about everything that Jesus was teaching him, that he gets really excited and says, I'm going to abandon everything that's back home, and I want to follow you. I want to become one of your apostles. And that's when Jesus comes back to him and says, no, you're not coming with me. I'm just going to read his words so I'm not making anything up. He says, Jesus did not let him follow him. He said, go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you. So this starts our conversation about the importance of family. So Jesus told this person, go back to your family and tell them all the good things that the Lord has done to you. Because as we'll see there in the family, in that niche, in that small little environment is where most of our development will happen. And most of our development will be able to be shared around. And in the text that we read in the beginning, that's where Emmanuel tells us how important it is for us to first, and I'll read it again, it's the last paragraph, I believe. He says, if you have already approached Christ, assimilating his messages of eternal life, so if our relationship with Christ is being already developed, let us seek to communicate them through the language of example, first of all, to our own. So first of all, exemplifying the virtues that Jesus taught us with our own, within our home. We're going to see why. Why is that family such an important aspect of our lives? And that it's a little small. Hopefully you can read it. But to start off, this question 775 from this book, this blue little book here, it's the Spirit's book, that asks, what would be the effect on society if family ties were relaxed? So what if we just dissolved all the families? What if we didn't have families anymore, or the family structure? Anyone remembers this answer? We've already studied it in our Wednesdays study of the Spirit's book. And this relates to the law of society in section 3 of the book. And it's a pretty short answer.
Is it regarding selfishness?
Yes, there you go. Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
Perfect.
That's the only thing I remember.
This is the most important word. it would lapse into selfishness, meaning society would lapse into selfishness, meaning we would give in to our selfishness. Why? Why do you think that is? Why do you think family is so intertwined with our ability to transform our selfishness? Any thoughts? Ideas?
Makes us think about something different than ourselves by necessity, because there's people literally there right next to us all the time. And especially if you're a parent, ones that you need to look after, ones that you can't just leave to their own because they're literally small and incapable of looking after themselves.
Exactly. That's a great example. When we're talking about especially raising kids, everything around virtues like patience, right? Like renunciation of our own desires on behalf of theirs, right? Those are things that likely we wouldn't be trialed as much outside family as we are within that family. So comes to show us the importance. And do you remember, I just thought of it, there's a question again in the Spirit's book. Don't ask me what number it is, but it asks about what are the biggest obstacles to society, right? What is the biggest obstacle that we have that prevents us from evolving? And you remember the answer.
I think it's pride and selfishness.
There you go. Right? So here it's telling us that by having these family ties, we're able to transform our selfishness. And selfishness itself is one of the biggest obstacles to our transformation. So if we were to tie it all together, family is one of the greatest ways for us to evolve. If we choose to use it as a tool for our transformation. Because we can always have family, but be very removed from it and not take in any of those opportunities to learn and to transform. And here, when we're talking about family, we're not talking about a standard model of family, as there are many different types. We are talking about the intimate ties that people have in their incarnation as we're here on earth. This intimate ties of coexistence, as we say, and the constant of our existence. The word coexistence in English, in Portuguese, we say convivência. Right? That's the most important thing about family, because it's through this coexistence that we'll be trialed quite constantly.
Sorry.
No worries, it's good. It will help wake people up. And so, right, we might think that family is sometimes we hear that family is a social construct, and some people feel the pressure that society might put on them to have a family, but we've come to realize that family is not a social construct, but it's actually how Duval Adavis describes it. He says it is a divine institution. So it became a social construct, but that is the consequence. The important thing is that it is a divine institution, because it is, as Joan Gentry says, the laboratory of our moral evolution. So it is in that family where we'll find the biggest opportunities for us to learn and to improve. So there is a book called Jesus in the Home, Jesus no Lar, or this version that we have here today, which is in Spanish. So if you'd like to read it, it's in Spanish. And Jesus in the Home, which is a beautiful book that has many passages from Jesus and extends beyond what's in the gospel. And the title is Jesus in the Home because it is passages when Jesus were usually at Peter's home with his friends and teaching them and talking about life. So in the first chapter of this book, it already starts saying that the domestic cradle is the first school and the first temple of the soul. The man's house is the legitimate exporter of characters for common life. There's some interesting words here. Basically, that domestic environment that we have é o maior exportador de caracteres, meaning it's the biggest exporter of characters, meaning all the kids that we raise in that family is what will give back to society. But it doesn't necessarily need to be just the kids, right? It could be just ourselves as we transform within that home. We will take ourselves to society as a different person every single day. So it is that nucleus that will shape, in a way, the future of society. If we were to think about society as this is an analogy from Atu Valadares, if we were to think about society as a body, we can think about the body itself as our earth, the systems as the continents, and then the organs as countries, and then the cells as our homes, as our families. And if there is one cell in our body that's not doing so well, it impacts the whole, right? So when we talk about the importance of family, we talked about how important it is for us, for our own transformation, but it has a huge impact as well into society as a whole, because it is that living cell in our earth and beyond. So much so that Jesus says, how can we expect a safe and peaceful community, which is something that we all want, without the home improving itself? The peace of the world begins beneath the roof that shelters us. If we have not learned to live in peace within those four walls, how can we expect harmony among nations? Right? So when we're so focused around why don't we have more harmony in society, how about we take a look inside and see how is the harmony within those four walls? Right? Those are a lot easier for us to help and to have an impact over, and really reflect about those before start to judge or occupy our minds so much with the outside. And as we will see, when we talk about reincarnation, and this is what Spiritism, it's one of the biggest solaces or comfort that Spiritism can bring to us, is the idea of reincarnation, right? That the things that we did in the past, we have another chance to come and make it better. And we'll see that families is usually one of the main things that we choose before we come, right? It's part of when we're planning our reincarnation, family is one of those things that we really think about and really choose in a way. And we'll see that one of the reasons why it's something so important to our lives is because family usually, not necessarily, but usually, we choose to bring those who we've had some tough times in the past. And we have some amends that need to be amended. We have some issues there that need to be amended. And the reason why we choose to come in the same family is because the family already has some of that love that surrounds it. It has that responsibility that surrounds it, and it has that coexistence that is particular to families. That if we think about someone, for example, that in our past lives we have wronged or they have wronged us, so we might hate them, for example. It would be a lot easier to make amends with that person if they came within our families, because of that protection or because of that love that surrounds us. If that person were to come outside of our family. So let's think about someone that, again, we might hate, might be a strong word, but someone that we have had pretty tough pasts with. If that person doesn't come in our family, how long would it take for us to actually invest time to make those amends? Right? It would take a really, really long time. And that's the beauty of family and reincarnation, that it allows us to mend those I guess the
Challenging situations.
the challenges or those relationships that were broken by some of our shortcomings or their shortcomings. Yes, thank you.
And what if, like, when you come in a family and you put all the efforts in, all the love in that you can master, like, but they still don't accept you? And every time you try to, I don't know, do something good for them and etc., it just hurts you more and more.
Mhm.
Like,
Absolutely, that's a very good question, Karina. And I'm not going to answer it now. In a couple slides, Jonah Gengeli's in this book.
sorry.
No, this is really good. Jonah Gengeli's in this book, SOS Family. She talks a little bit about this, and it might be a little bit of a harsh answer, or not as. Depending on how we see it, we can see the love in it, but it's a little
Do you
bit
think
direct.
that, yes, ties a little bit with the parabola of
Yes,
effort that you
Yeah,
put in, the
absolutely.
love in you're giving.
absolutely. Yes, thank you. I'll bring that in that slide as well. Thank you, Lindy. Very good idea. And lastly, so we realize, and this is something that Emmanuel tells us, that the divine providence it chooses to correct through love. So that's the idea of bringing people within our families that might challenge us, because it's trying to correct the wrongdoings from the past through love. And in one of the questions that we had is the importance of family. And a lot of times we think about what we bring to our families or the things that we do for our families. If we were to go away, the house would simply collapse and all the things that we are doing. But how about the inverse? And this was a reflection that was brought to us in one of our mediumistic meetings from one of the mentors was we tend to, not all of us, but some of us tend to complain that we do so much for the family, but we don't get much in return. And the reflection that he proposed was, let's flip it a little bit and think about how much we need the family that we have, how much they provide to us. Because we might forget about that scenario, to flip it and think about how much they improve our lives. I'm not asking for any questions, just a thought for us to think about. And in the book Heaven and Hell, which is the second, that's the middle one, but it's the second last one, we have this reflection here from Kardec telling us that the incarnation is necessary for both moral and intellectual progress of the spirit. For intellectual progress, through the obligatory activity of work, and for moral progress by the reciprocal need of men amongst themselves. So, in other words, in here in this book, especially in this book, if you read this book, you'll realize that if it were to summarize it, it's telling us how the opportunities that we have in life are for our own improvement if we choose to accept them. Having our moral intellectual progress through our work, through the things that we choose to do to enhance our intellectuals. But the moral progress, as they say, comes from the reciprocal need that we have amongst ourselves, meaning society. Right? I can't live alone by myself. We always need someone. Why? Because it is that need that we have amongst ourselves that will push us to improve. It is the relationships that will bring the trials for our virtues, right? It's through relationships that we trial on our patience, on our meekness, on our humility, and so on and so forth. So much so that he says that social life is the touchstone of virtues, or a pedestal of virtues. It's that thing that will motivate us to develop our virtues. And in a way, and this is something that Dr. Valadares talks about, he says that our family, especially our family members, they work as mirrors that will basically show us how we are. Right? It's very easy to be humble or to be kind in the Spiritist center. But how about back home? Right? Ideally, it would be the same. But the Victor at home is very different from the Victor here. Right? So ideally we want it to be the same. But the true one really comes out in that coexistence, in that habitat where we have very intricate and constant relationships with people. And so we can see through the reflection of our partners, of our kids, our father, our mothers, those things that come out from us that we might realize that are not very nice, perhaps. It's when we lash out. It's when we start to have jealousy and whatever it may be. But we can see them as these mirrors. They're simply helping us to discover ourselves a little bit better. Right? Perhaps I lose patience with my parents or my kids, or I don't think it's fair what they did to me. All those are just a reflection for us to see the things within ourselves that we still need to transform, that we still need to improve. So if we want to use them as a tool for self-awareness, it is great. Another tool that also is part of the coexistence that we talk about is our work, right? Because it's something that is very constant. So these are relationships that are very constant in our lives. So we can do something very similar there as well. I'm not going to talk about this, but I really like the pictures. We're not going to have time. But yeah, basically to say that our childhood is quite important. And we're very thankful for the fathers out there who helped us get here, right? The only reason why we're here is because some sort of influence that we had from our parents, be it good, be it bad, whatever they did to us, helped shape who we are. And so I know some of us might perhaps be the only people who are spiritists or who choose to follow Christ at home. That is something fairly common to have nowadays. And to offer some consolation to this scenario, we bring something that Paul told us when he was imprisoned with Paul and Silas were imprisoned. And the guard came to them and asked them, "Sirs, what do I do? What must I do to be saved?" Because the guard was feeling very guilty for having Paul and Silas in prison, given they hadn't done anything wrong. And they replied to him, "Believe in the Lord Jesus, and you will be saved, you and your household." This is in Acts chapter 16. So this comes to show us that even if we are the only ones in our homes that are trying or excelling at following Christ, trying to develop our virtues, if we're the only ones, that alone can have a huge impact in our home. It can have a huge impact in all our family members and friends who live with us. So it's a message of motivation for us not to give up. And at the same point, there's a passage from Jesus that happens with Peter. When Peter, this happens right after the Last Supper. And this is where Jesus alludes to the fact that he's going to be betrayed. And then Peter goes a little bit outraged and kept asking Jesus, "Who's that person? Who's that person? I want to know who that person is, so you can do something about it and prevent him from yes, thank you." And then what Jesus tells him is that if I want that person to remain alive until I return, what is that to you? You must follow me. So Jesus is telling Peter that you don't have to worry about what he's going to do. All you have to do is to follow me. Meaning, in our homes, right? If we have someone that doesn't follow Christ, but I do, that's okay, right? It's not something that I need to try to impose, because the biggest duty that I have is that I follow Christ, right? And that if others wants to follow, great. If they don't, patience, right? And so yeah, that was the idea that Christ told us about, right? It's the reason why we follow Christ is not because others are following, or it's not because we want to show that we follow Christ to others, but it's simply a very intimate decision that we make every day. And it's really, again, like I said, intimate, not something to show, and not something that we would rely on others to do. So we then choose to do it. Almost a couple slides more, Karina, to talk about what you asked. And it's not like I'm going to have an answer, but I'm going to have a few things to talk about. There is a little book called Marked Hands by Emmanuel. And he, in this text called Co-Sanguinity, he brings to us this, and this is a start to the answer to your question. He starts this text by saying something that can lead us to misunderstand, or it can lead us to feel a little bit removed, or a little bit of resistance towards the sentence. It says, "You receive in the home the inheritance of the past, through which you restructure your own destiny towards the future." So the home that we received is, first of all, the home that we chose, especially when we're talking about being kids, being son and daughter of someone else. So we receive basically what we deserve. That's what they're saying, right? You receive in the home the inheritance of what you did in the past. So the home that we have today is the home that will provide us what we know. Again, this is what we chose. Always reminding ourselves that everyone has free will, right? So things might not unfold exactly how we planned, but regardless, it is, there is, as we like to talk about here, there isn't anyone in this world who has an unjust life, or a life that's not fair, right? Because there's always something for us to learn from something that we might think is an injustice. There's always something to learn, and if we learn something, it's no longer an injustice because we benefited from it. So this is the reflection that Emmanuel, quite direct, tells us, and through which, right? This is not a bad thing. This is a really good thing, because they're saying it is through that. It's through the inheritance of the past that we'll be able to restructure our own destiny towards the future. And when we talk about family, especially about social constructs, we start to compare ourselves, to compare our families with other families. And sometimes we think, oh, I would prefer to have that mother, I would prefer to have my friend's father, or I prefer to live in a different home. But as we read here, that wouldn't work for us, because what we need is the one we have today. God didn't mix it up, right? Didn't mix us up in the hospital. There is a purpose in there, and we can be sure that there is something for us to learn. And there's something that I know Louise likes him. His name is Osandro. He brings a trick with words that works. It works in Portuguese, not so much in English. But he says that a desgraça é a graça que foi compreendida. So the disgrace, or an event that we think shouldn't have happened, or an event that from our eyes is something that was wrong. We think it's wrong because we haven't yet learned the benefit from it. Once we understand the why and the how, it turns from a disgrace to grace. And he, a couple more sentences on this text from Emmanuel. He says, "It is there, in the family, in the fury crucible of intense spiritual reactions, that our heart is trained to serve the greater family." which extends throughout humanity. So again, it is in that family that will train our hearts to be better. Remember that within those four walls of the domestic organization, you gather the deepest resentments in order to transform them into sacred, effective deposits. So again, showing us that some of the people that we resent the most could be the ones that are in our families. And again, for a reason, right? Because it is in that realm of family that we're able to transform them, that we're able to train our hearts to love.
Well, the greater family meaning in that text, is that regarding the society?
It goes back to what Emmanuel said in the text that we read in the beginning, when Jesus said, go back to your family, is when we start to work within our family, right? We are affecting the greater family as well, society as a whole. And then in this book here, the SOS from Joanna Genesis, which we actually have two in our library, or our bookstore. It is truly what it means, SOS family. This is where she talks about trialing parents. So when we have parents that perhaps we don't agree with, or we don't like, or we just have a struggle. And I'm only going to bring 3 sentences about this from this book. But she says that there are parents who only procreate, fleeting their responsibilities. So this happens, right? All they do is procreate, and as soon as it comes to the responsibility to raise that kid, they flee. However, it is not the children's role to judge them harshly, as they may lack the necessary clarity and righteousness to do so. So this is when, instead of judging them, we should put ourselves in their shoes and realize that perhaps we don't have the necessary clarity to understand, nor do we have the righteousness or the moral high ground to judge them, right? Not only because we are the children, but also because we don't know what happened before, and we have no idea what happened in their past lives. And then she ends with ingratitude from children toward their parents is one of the gravest errors a spirit can make on its journey of ascension. And there's a few things to develop here. First is to realize from the last paragraph, which I find amazing to read, it's how intertwined or how entangled our lives are with how we see our parents. She's saying that when we have ingratitude towards our parents, it can make our own transformation, our own moral evolution, an obstacle, right? It might have nothing to do with, we might think it has nothing to do with our parents, right? For example, I don't know, taking charge at work, for example. I have a hard time with that. Nothing related to the parents, but it could be 100% related to the relationships we have with our parents, but we might not see it. So, Joanna Genesis is telling us how important it is, the feelings that we have towards our parents. It has nothing to do with what was done in the past, because those are past things, but is how is the feeling that we have towards them today? Which is why, again, she wrote a whole book talking about gratitude, right? Because she says that this ingratitude can prevent us from progressing. So she wrote, again, an entire book talking about how to be grateful, teaching us how to be grateful, because it is a huge stepping stone to our ascension. And we have today, actually, it's becoming more and more common to hear about the importance of gratitude and acceptance and love towards those who come before us. In modern therapies, such as in family constellations, we hear more and more about the importance of respect, gratitude, and acceptance towards those who came before us. Because it's by by doing that, by respecting what came before us, that we'll be free from the entanglements for us to progress in the future. And we might think that that's modern, right? We might think that that's just new in therapies nowadays. But John D'Angelis had already said this, which is right here. But there's something else even further that taught us about the importance of respecting and accepting our parents. And it's not from 50 years ago, it's not from 100 years ago, it's not even from Jesus. It goes before Jesus himself. Any thoughts?
Moses.
Yes,
Uh-huh.
exactly. Big, right? That's like 3,500 years ago, roughly. In the Ten Commandments, we have 8 of them, but it's all about don'ts. Don'ts. Do not, do not, do not, do not, do not. One of them, and I'd say the most important one, is the one where they invite us to action. So this is not don't do it, but do this, right? Which is the one that talks about honor your father and your mother, so that you may live long in the land the Lord your God is giving you. So 3,500 years ago, they were already talking about the importance of honoring, of respecting, of accepting those who came before us, our father and our mother, and how much that is important to our own future. It's not simply to be nice or to be kind, but it has a huge impact in our future. And maybe now I might be able to start to be able to comment about what you brought forward, Karina. Here what we're talking about is not the actions that we take towards them, but about how we work the feelings that we have towards them, right? So it could be that we only, I don't know, see each other once a year or once every 5, depending on our situation. But the feeling that we have towards them, that's every day, right? We might think of our parents every single day. So it's almost as if they were living with us. So that coexistence, just because we're far apart in location, we're still very close because those are people that come into our minds on a daily basis. So that coexistence is there, right? So working through those feelings can liberate us from a lot of the shortcomings that we have in life today. And this is something that all of us have known for, again, more than 3,000 years. And we're still here trying to work through it. And this is an invitation for us to love unconditionally, right? And because it is something that's part of our lives so deeply, it might be tough, but it's the one that's going to give us the biggest reward. And I know it's Father's Day, but we haven't really talked about fathers specifically, but we talked about families a lot. And if we were to think about Joseph of Nazareth, I know Hinata, she did a beautiful presentation about Jesus' mom, about Mary, last month. And this is not a talk about Joseph, but what do we know about Joseph? How much is he talked about in the gospel? Right? We know his name is Joseph. We don't even know when he died. Right? And Emmanuel, in a book that escapes me now, he writes a text about Joseph and saying that the beauty of Joseph was that exactly. It was his silence. It was his resignation towards his family, of providing to his family to the point that we don't even know what he did. But we know that the family carries through. And he saw through his family to the point that Jesus was able to carry his life into adulthood. I mean, that's the humility that comes from Joseph. He did everything a parent does, but with no spotlight.
Yeah.
With no spotlight, to the point that we don't even talk about him. So that's a true important father. And we usually talk here at FSS when we talk about Jesus and when we're talking about Jesus to others, it's that the movement, especially we're talking about this with the students of our, what do you call it? No.
Spiritist education.
Yeah, no. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah, that.
Yeah, how we get together to learn or to
Of
be
course.
prepared to be talking.
To be talking,
or
exactly.
doing a
To
study.
lead our studies. So we have a study group that we're talking and going through some courses with some students to learn about giving talks and leading studies. And we always talk about that feeling of us kneeling down so we can show Jesus, right? And this is exactly what Joseph did, right? He knelt down, he did the work so Jesus could be glorified and could be shown. And so we have a lot to thank Joseph. I'm going to skip a few slides here. And since we only have 5 minutes, I wanted to, given it's Father's Day, I wanted to thank all the fathers that are out there. And if we're not fathers, we probably had a father. And we also recognize that some of us didn't have a father, right? There are many different scenarios that might happen, but we know for sure that there was a father there present, that we needed a father. And when it comes to honoring our father and mother, we might think that they don't deserve it. Remembering what Jeanne Gentry said to us about ingratitude and how that can prevent us from ascension, she's there, she's telling us that the simply, it's not a simple thing, but just the fact that our parents, even though they're not present in our lives, just the fact that they gave us our opportunity to reincarnate, that in itself is already worthy for an eternity of gratitude towards them, regardless of what we did and still do. Right? We don't remember it, but we probably begged to come back here to Earth to have this reincarnation, and they were the ones who said, "Yeah, I'll take him. Yes, I'll take him." And so that in itself is already worthy of being grateful to our fathers. And this is just one little text to the fathers and to the mothers as well, which is written by Emmanuel. He says that, this is Emmanuel talking to the fathers. He says, "Seek to help and support them, the kids, with abnegation and tenderness, even if it costs you all the sacrifices. Because at the exact moment when conscience tells you that you have done everything to enrich them with education and work, dignity and joy, you will have conquered in silence the luminous certificate of your own liberation." Meaning there's nothing better than for a father in this case to know that he did his best to educate his kids. And then when he lays down to sleep after a day of a lot of education with the kids, they can have that peace of mind of a job well done. And there's nothing bigger that will give them this, what they talk about here, the certificate of liberation, of feeling that peace of mind. And to end, again, talking about parenthood, how beautiful of a situation it is. It is a mission, as we talked about a couple months ago. But I wanted to run through some pictures, and I did this last year as well, so it's the same picture. But it's basically to say and to show how big of a mission being a father is, and to that is the idea of thanking the fathers out there, but also thanking our own. Right? It's being able to see how in this mission of parenthood, we are able to apply all the divine laws in parenthood. Right? We're able to apply the law of progress, because not only are we progressing as fathers, but also giving the opportunity to our kids to progress. We're allowing reincarnation to happen. Without fathers, reincarnation simply wouldn't exist. We're able to apply the love of love, justice, and charity through a day in and day out with kids, enriching society through the law of society. We're able to also teach our kids the law of worship, of work, the law of reproduction, the law of freedom, the law of moral perfection. So that you can see that through parenthood, it's this beautiful thing that God allows us to have, where we can literally apply every single divine law in this one duty, in this one mission that we can all have. And perhaps it's not this lifetime, perhaps in this lifetime we won't be parents, but that's not to say that we weren't in the past, and that's not to say that we won't be in the future life. So there's lots that we can learn even without being a father or a mother, and just save all that for our next reincarnation when we're able to. So that's a thank you for all the fathers out there, those here present, those already in spirit. But hopefully we can start to train this little muscle here to be more and more grateful towards these people that were chosen, that accepted us and gave us the gift of life. And it's new. So thank you all.
Thank you.
And I don't know if the kids have anything, or I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I don't- Let me double check, but.
Okay. Yeah, just to see. I wouldn't want them to not to show. No, it's not a photo. So yeah, all these books, especially this one, SOS Family, from the SOS, is very nice. For families. And there are many others talking about family because it truly is that environment that tests us and invites us to be better on a daily basis. Okay.
It's that sad, right? Because it's not, the invitation is always to look inside. So even if we have a very broken relationship with our fathers, it's still that invitation for forgiveness, for just give love, regardless of what they do to us. Oh my
Just a couple payments for the big group.
Oh, okay, so it's a big group.
They
Okay.
want to elaborate.
We did for his mom. Dad's as well, right?
Well, of course.